Hello, I'm so excited to be here today for Healist, and this is beautiful Shilamida. And Shilamida, we are so excited to get to know you and learn about everything that you do. Could you introduce yourself to our listeners and let them know what you are up to in this world?
Hi, Dawn. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I am a transformation and lifestyle mentor. I am a best-selling author. I am a retired licensed acupuncturist. I call myself a holistic healer, a spiritual guide, and I'm here to, raise the elevation and consciousness of the world.
I love that. Before we dive into all your beautiful gifts that you have for everybody, oh my gosh, I love all these things that you do. How would you define healing in your world?
Healing is a way of being where we learn to mend the wounds of our past and not blame ourselves for it. That
Wow.
is healing. I feel like people live in hell because they live in shame and guilt around things that have happened to their minds, their bodies, their person, their human, and they can't heal from that. And so healing is the way of being that mends those wounds.
I love that. Instead of a doing, it's a being,
Yeah.
right? It's so much about our consciousness and tapping into something higher than just these past things that we, like you said, have shame or guilt for. And that is, it keeps us anchored in the past. So I love that you're helping people release that. What got you started on your healing journey? What's your story of how you got into this work?
Yeah, well, my dad got diagnosed with leukemia when I was 17, and then my mother got diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 23. And so
Whoa.
he was given 2 years to live. He lived nine, and she went from breast cancer once to twice to three times. And so from 17 to 27, I lived in fright or flight, thinking that one of them was going to die until my dad actually did pass away. And then I got pregnant with my son shortly thereafter, which was a whirlwind of a pregnancy. And when I looked at my son, I was just like, I am not living this life right. Like I am not. I did not know how to be a mom. I was not nurtured myself. I struggled hard. And so I needed to find something because I was in a really bad place. I did not want to live, and then I had this other human now that was dependent on me. And that's what set me on my catalyst is that one day I just dropped down on my knees and I was like, God, this can't be it. This can't be it. This can't be why I came here. And so from that moment forward, I started to shift and change and heal and manifest. And here we are.
Wow. Aren't children our greatest? I swear to God, they're little activators. Same thing. I had my daughter in 2013, and when I had her, it's like she came and all of a sudden, even though I was doing healing work on myself and working in the healing field, something about her being born just activated me in the deepest way. Same as you. It's like, oh my God, there's got to be more. Like I got to figure this out
Yeah.
because I don't want to repeat everything that I've already had and give her that same path. So when it came to your dad and your mom, did that watching your dad have to go through leukemia and pass away and your mom going through breast cancer, what did that show you or teach you about the body?
Well, I can tell you what it taught me about the medical field.
Yeah, let's start there. I want to hear that. I want to hear that.
The body is a miraculous thing, this body of ours. And in recent years, I've really learned to appreciate my body in a very different way than I ever have before. But when I went through the journey of cancer with both of my parents, they both went a very medical route, and that was the only route that I knew and understood.
Mhm.
It wasn't until I had my rock bottom moment where I fell to my knees and I asked for help. And so the first modality that I was led to was massage school. I just wanted to help people. I loved getting massage, and it was something that my ex really did not want me to do. He did not want me
Why?
massaging
You don't want you
people,
touching other people.
very possessive. Yeah. And so it was kind of like a F you to him, like, I'm going to go to massage school, you know?
Yeah.
So 3 weeks into massage school, I was like, oh man, I cannot do this for the rest of my life. But it was the first time I ever heard the word acupuncture. And so I didn't even know that acupuncture was a thing. And so I started learning about acupuncture. And then I connected with an old friend from high school on Facebook. So we're going back to 2008, 2009. These are like the early years of Facebook.
Mhm.
And, he invited me to his home to like hang out with some other guy friends that we were in a group together. And so when I went to his house, I met his wife, and she was super, super awkward, like super awkward.
Yeah.
And so we became friends. I don't even know if I don't even know if I had a conversation with her that night, but she friended me on Facebook. And these were the days of Facebook where like I only had like 200 friends, you know? So it was like every person that came in was like, I don't want this person here. And
Mhm.
so she kept asking me all these questions like, when are you graduating from massage school? Where are you going to work? What are you going to do? And I'm like, why is this girl like asking me all these things? Right. So later, like, I know that it was ego that was coming into play for me. And so I get an invitation from the husband to come to a kid's birthday party. And I didn't have anything to do with my son that weekend. And I happened to be an event planner. And so we show up to this party, and it was like the worst kids' party of all. They were serving like pasta with ragu. There was like no toys there. So I come in, I like scoop in, we like turn on sprinklers. It turns into this fun party.
Oh,
And
that's so cool.
comes at me again, and she's like, what are you going to do with this massage career? And I'm like, why do you have so many questions? Turns out she was an acupuncturist, and
Uh,
she was looking for a massage therapist to come work for her. And so
interesting.
my story, my second book, is called From Food Stamps to First Class. So here I am living on food stamps, and I'm just finishing massage school. And here this acupuncturist comes into my life and wants to now hire me to work for her doing massage for $1 a minute. Here I'm like, this is not a career for me. And
Yeah.
now it's like the universe has shifted and now has opened me up to a funnel of money, right?
Wow.
So I lowered my ego, and I'm like, okay, like maybe this girl is, whatever. And so this was when I was around 30 years old. I went through a like quarter life crisis, and I ended up getting a breast reduction.
Okay.
So I was having surgery that week. So I told her it would have to wait until after surgery. She was like, do you want me to come to your house and do acupuncture for you? It'll
Nice.
help you heal.
Yeah.
So here this girl shows up to my house, lays in my bed with me, turns out to be my soul sister.
No way.
Out that I'm equally socially awkward. I can just handle myself better in a crowd. And so I was seeing a reflection of myself, right?
Yeah.
And so she laid in my bed with me, and she was like, what is your deal? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm on this spiritual journey. I just know that I'm meant for more. I went to massage school. That wasn't it. And she was like, you have to go to acupuncture school. She's like, it'll just change your whole entire world. Like, you have to go to acupuncture school. And so that was the catalyst of acupuncture school. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, like not one zero.
Really?
I did no research, nothing. I had one acupuncture treatment from this girl.
Wow. You trusted the universe, right? Yeah.
Trusted. Yep. I was a McDonald's eating, Subway loving, hot mess express. I was 250 pounds at one point. So I
No
think
way.
into acupuncture school, I was probably like 215 pounds.
Oh,
Yes.
oh my
I
God.
showed up on the first day of school with a Ziploc bag of candy that I bought from the dollar store, like food dye, gummy, chewy. Like, I thought I was being so nice and kind. People were like, what is wrong with this
Oh,
girl?
this is hilarious. I love this. But isn't this such a reflection of reality in so many ways where people don't know that those like candy and is bad for you, and that having weight on your body is indicative of probably like so much more like trauma and different things, and just or not even knowing what's in our food, right? So, oh my gosh, okay, continue.
So acupuncture was a huge journey for me, right? From the classmate who would walk over and read all of my labels, and I like literally despise her, and then I become her, right?
Right.
Like I am the one who
I
will
am
walk
her too.
in,
I am her
like,
too.
how you're eating. And so I had to do a lot of healing work with her. I reached out to her at some point. I'm like, I'm so sorry because I gave her a hard time in acupuncture school. I didn't want to work with her.
Well, when you don't know, you don't know, right?
Don't know, you don't know. And when you're not open to the information, you're not open to the information. And there's something called cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is this point in your brain that can't handle the fact that you might be hurting yourself or somebody else near you. And so when you receive the information of this is bad for you, and you're just like, ha ha ha, that can't be bad for me, right? You laugh it off because everybody else is eating Skittles. So what is wrong with eating Skittles, right? And then it's like, well, everybody else is using fluoride toothpaste. What is wrong with using fluoride toothpaste? And so little by little, the information started tapping into my mind, and it was like something is off and something is wrong. And then in acupuncture school, like here I was sitting and learning, like, and listening, and I'm like, I'm doing this all wrong. Like I'm doing this all wrong. Like everything that I've ever known or learned or, you know, eaten was all wrong. And so acupuncture was really the catalyst for me. And then luckily after acupuncture school, I got added into a couple of mystical groups on Facebook with some really magical women in there who could heal anything within a matter of minutes. It was like my son has a fever, and it would be like detox bath or peppermint on the bottom of the feet, and it would be like boom, 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 all of these remedies that started coming through. And so I really empowered myself and my life and my children. My youngest is about to turn 10. And
Oh,
like when they're not feeling well, they come and tell me, Mommy, can I have an oxysilicicium? Can I have a remedy? Can you do cupping on me? Can I take a detox bath? Do we have any honey? Like they know that something in the house is going to bring them some kind of relief. You will never hear here, can you take me to a doctor?
that's beautiful. You and I are very similar, very similar. My girls have probably been to the doctor a handful of times. And that was because when we lived in San Diego, they had to get like certain immunizations in order to go to school. And I put them in school. So, but they haven't gone, and I've taught them the same way. And I think that's so beautiful. And I think for our listeners, if you are somebody that's still eating Skittles and maybe eating McDonald's, whatever, it's not that you're bad or wrong. It's just that there's another opportunity to explore new doorways of healing and really healing the body. And it sounds like, Shalimita, I mean, with you having parents that were physically ill and learning about kind of Western medicine, and I'm so curious from that vantage point of Western medicine versus going to acupuncture school, what was like the biggest differentiation, do you think?
Well, I grew up as a pill popping, drug loving human being.
Mhm.
If I had a headache, it was a pill. If my knee hurt, it was take me to a hospital. I need something stronger. I mean, I was a victim through and through. Hospital trips were my norm. I loved getting a shot of morphine into my veins. Like now,
You're so funny. I love your transparency.
I mean, you know what? It's important for people to hear this because I know that there's somebody just like me who just needs to hear, like, I can change. And you
100%.
can, I am nobody compared to who I was, like there is no comparison of that person. And so I didn't feel nurtured growing up. I didn't feel the love that I needed. So I would seek it out in different ways. And obviously, it took a lot of healing work to be able to look at myself in the mirror, understand what I was doing. In the moment, I don't think I realized it as much. But
Yeah.
in hindsight, looking back, like half of my hospital trips did not need to be hospital trips, but I didn't know how to ask for attention. I didn't
Art.
know how
Yeah.
to ask to be seen. And it was easier to go get a shot to numb the pain, any pain, because depression, anxiety, it was rampant in my mind. And I didn't know how to live life. I didn't know how to process the feeling of having two parents that could die at any second. My dad was given 2 years. So it was like any second he's going to die. And he ended up living 9. So that was a mind fuck all in its own, like having to, okay, he's not going to die, but all the years I wasted because I did turn to drugs and alcohol. It wasn't just the, hospital trips.
Right.
It was
Mhm.
the drunken nights and the cocaine and whatever. And my dad used to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I remember like doing the walk of shame. Like if I could just like walk in the house and hug him and tell him I loved him and been able to process those feelings, but I didn't know how to process those feelings then. And that's why this work is so important. And that's why I am so honest and open about my life, because I hope that somebody listening to this can tune in and be like, wow, this girl has really lived through it all. I know that grief feels like the biggest emotion of your life, but you will get through it. I know that anxiety feels like you're never going to be able to live another day, but I can tell you, I haven't lived with anxiety for, I think, 4 years now. And I
Wow.
used to go from like debilitating panic attacks, like you can change your whole entire world.
Wow. That is, yes. And I agree with you. And pain is an epidemic. I mean, people are, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, and I think so many don't have the tools to, like you said, understand that you can get rid of anxiety. And they are using alcohol or drugs to numb because unfortunately, that's what we're taught in our society. It's not even unusual. It's literally when I went to college, that was the norm. You got shit-faced drunk every weekend, and it was just that's what you do. Nobody questioned it. Nobody said, "Hey, what's going on with you? Why are you drinking so much?" It was just that was how everybody behaved, and it was like just this big kind of cesspool of people probably trying to figure out life and numbing, and some people got out of it. I saw some people stay in that and never really recover from that. When you're talking about your anxiety and how you've been pretty anxiety free for the last 4 years, how did that happen? I'd love for our listeners to hear that.
Yeah, it literally was a day. I was on a mentor call. I do a lot of personal development. I was on a mentor call and I was really struggling during cancel culture. I was a part of the cancel culture.
Okay.
And so, 2020 to 2022 was deep transformational healing for myself. I needed to do a lot of shadow work. And in the shadow work that I did, I went back for different lives where I was burnt at the stake, where I was beheaded for telling the truth, where I had like a scarlet letter, so like life after life that I did this shadow work thing for 6 weeks. So it was like week after week, week after week, I went
Going
through
into the
life
shadow.
that like I and here I was repeating it in this life, but instead of torches and whatever, we had social media and business attacks. And so living through that was really a catalyst of like twofold. One was people had me on a really high pedestal,
Yeah.
right? And it wasn't a role that I had asked for.
Mhm.
And so my branding prior to COVID was the goddess of gratitude. And so when COVID came, I don't know if anybody knows about human design. I didn't at the time, but now in hindsight, I am a projector. So when
Right.
it came, I knew that it was coming. I'm also in the medical freedom movement in New Jersey. So we had just been fighting for freedom of religion. And so I knew something was coming. I knew a vaccine was coming that was going to be mandated. So I had a very different outlook And so when COVID started, I was like, oh my God, all these people are going to wake up. They're going to see things the way that I see it. Right. And it was so opposite. It was the witch hunt was like, what is happening? How is this happening? How are people not seeing what I'm seeing? And
Mhm.
so living through that, I went through the greatest anxiety that I could have because my husband owns a wholesale fruits and vegetable company.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
restaurant shut down, his company shut down in a minute. It
Wow.
was death defying. Like it was this is our livelihood.
Yes, the
And
stress.
here I'm an acupuncturist. And so my business is in wellness and touching people. And here I have
Wow.
a wellness center with massage therapists and people that work for me that cannot go into work every day, and living through all of that, surviving through all of that, and coming out of the other side and having this conversation with my mentor saying to me, you don't need outer validation. You need to learn how to self validate yourself.
Mhm.
And in the moment that I tapped into self validation, all of the anxiety went away.
Wow.
Because, like, what are we anxious about? We're anxious about what people think. We're anxious about what people do. We're anxious about, is it going to be good enough? Am I good enough? We are anxious around fear of being robbed, fear of being raped, fear of all these bad things happening that are not happening, right?
Mhm.
And so in this process, I mean, listen, I want to say that it was that easy, that in that one conversation, I got rid of anxiety, but that's not the truth.
Mhm.
It was a culmination of years of things in the making. So the start of letting go of my anxiety was I stopped watching the news. I stopped watching things like I loved CSI Miami or America Most Wanted. I mean, come on. If
I
you're
used
going
to
to
watch
watch
those
a
things
show like
too.
that, you are doomed.
Yeah, I
You
had
are
to stop watching all of that as well. Yep.
right. And so yeah, like it's nice to say that in that one conversation it all happened to me, but it wasn't that one conversation. It was 6 weeks of weekly shadow work. It was, years of acupuncture. It was kundalini yoga. During COVID, I was practicing kundalini every single day.
Of Kundalini.
Almost a year and a half. There's probably handfuls of days that I missed. And so it was all of those things, all of those things, all of those things, all of those practices rolled into one. And then I started to understand human design. And in human design, I realized the anxiety is not mine.
Interesting. So you use human design with your clients, it sounds like.
Huge. Yes. I'm a huge fan of human design. It has been life changing, game changing for me.
Wow. So once you learned, and I always tell my clients as a healer, when you leave a party or you leave, even anywhere, a coffee shop, whatever, and you feel off, 9 out of 10 times you've just absorbed energy. And I always say, return to sender through source, like give the energy back. But I think on a deeper level, what you're saying is like when you have a specific design, right, in human design. And where, just so, because I know people are going to go, well, if they've never heard of human design, they're going to, where do I go and get my chart? How do I even know what you're talking about? It's based on your astrology, right? It's based on your date of birth and your
It's
time
based
and
on where
place.
you were born, your
Yeah.
time of birth. Yeah, it's based on astrology and it mixes in Kabbalah, the Yi Chin, Chinese medicine. Like it's a combination of things. And so you can go to mybodygraph.com and you can put in your information, you'll get a free chart.
Okay.
And then there you want to get a reading done, whether you reach out to me or you find somebody else that does human design reading. And every person that you will go to, I definitely recommend going to different people because every person you're going to go to is going to give you a different spin on it. And the cool thing about human design is there's so much on that chart. Like there's so many different things to learn. But the beauty of human design is it's a chart that you actually get. And on the chart, there's triangles, there's squares, there's circles. Those are energetic centers.
Mhm.
And so those energetic centers are either white, where they have no color, or they're filled in with color. And so when you come together with another person, your energy centers actually come together. So, you have like people that you mesh with so well, and like you love spending time together. Chances are, if we spit out your human design and theirs, you guys like, whoop, like your human, if you laid them over each other, you give each other energy in places that they don't have it. That's why some people are so attractive and some people are not. Like, for instance, I have a defined ego center. So only like 21% of the population, or maybe 29% of the population, something like that, has this defined ego center. So
Right.
when I walk into a room, I shine a little bit brighter. People that have this, they shine a little bit brighter. And you're kind of like, why is that person over there? Like you could
Yeah.
just tell in a room when somebody's like that. And so learning human design was super helpful because as an acupuncturist and dealing with so many people for so many years, I had this core belief that people were stupid. That was it. That was my core belief that people were
And
really
why was that? Just because they weren't getting it or they weren't listening or what was that?
I mean, that was it. The
Yeah.
people who didn't get it, the people who asked 10,000 questions, the people that you say the same thing to over and over again, week after week, and they still come back and they still do the same thing,
Oh,
and it was just like, people are just so stupid, right? But then I learned
you were
design.
hilarious.
I learned human design, and I was like, oh no.
Well, okay, there is some greater reason for what's happening.
Right. So first and foremost, I'm a projector. So out of the all of the energetic types, the projector knows. Like we just
Very
know,
intuitive,
you
right?
know? So if
Yeah,
you're a projector listening to this and in your life you've heard the words, "Oh, you think you know it all," right? You have a friend that you've thought that about.
Mhm.
Chances are that they're a projector and they do know it all.
Yeah. My oldest daughter is a projector and she does know.
I mean, that's I like
Only 12 and she knows.
I know it all, but like I do know. It's weird to explain it, but since you have a projector, you understand it, right?
I
And
do.
so first and foremost, that was like, okay, no, you're hanging around generators and like, like they don't know, they're different. And
Yeah.
that really helped me, right? Like, because I'm like, okay, not everybody. Then I started learning about lines, right?
Yes.
And so when you start learning about profile lines, for those of you that are listening, there's 6 profile lines and there's 12 different combinations that they can be in. So the one line is the inquisitor, right? The one line, they don't know. They need to know. They love to ask questions. So they're not stupid.
Right.
They
They just that's just
ask
their design. Yeah.
questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a part of their design. And so once I started learning that, I was like, okay, like I was able to give people, and listen, I had a lot of compassion. I was a great acupuncturist. I have a great bedside manner. But this knowing, this learning has given me an even deeper level of compassion for people and for people's situations and how people react and respond to things. And I no longer think that everybody is stupid.
Right. I know. I could have guessed that. Yeah. What line are you, by the way? What's your combo?
I'm a 4-6.
Okay, I'm a 5-1. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Manny Jen. And so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't studied human design as much as I've studied astrology and the gene keys, but I love what I know of human design. I love. I find it so fascinating. How did you combine that? So I'm assuming, but I'll ask you, when 2020 happened and you can't touch people, your husband's business is shut down overnight. What did you do? How did you figure out how to transition into what you're doing now? Because I know this is life, right? We think everything's always going to be the same. We're never going to be affected. Like whatever's going to happen. And we have to have resiliency and trust that God is always, if you believe in God or the divine or universe, is always guiding us in new ways to reinvent ourselves if need be.
And when one door closes, another door opens, right? And so in my husband's business, he came home and we thrive in chaos, four sixes, we thrive in chaos. And so he came home the first day, business is down 90%. The second day, business is down 60%. Third day, when he was like, business is down 30%. Here, I'm at Home Goods, right? Like everybody's wearing a mask. I'm at Home Goods because I'm like, I'm just going to redecorate. I'm shopping. Like, okay, I'll take a couple weeks off. Like, no problem. And then he's coming home. And so on the third day, I'm like, well, what if we do home delivery? And so I came up with an idea. I went to go work for him. I started buying, selling. It was like a disastrous nightmare. It was good in the beginning. It was good for like 3 days. I was customer service. I loved wishing everybody a beautiful day until like the fifth person complained about their bananas and I told them where to shove them. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
no longer should have been on customer service. So it was definitely a journey, that journey. And then in July of 2020, the insurance companies in New Jersey decided that they were going to cut acupuncture benefits by 100%.
Oh, wow.
So I survived the heart of COVID, which is wild that I survived because my rent was like something like $3,600 a month or something. So I had enough patients that were still coming one day a week that I was able to cover my expenses. But then the insurance company cut our benefits from like $400 to $40.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
insane.
Oh,
And so at that point, I needed to make a decision on how I was going to move forward. I actually already had one foot out the door. I had started writing my books in 2017. So I had already not wanted to be an acupuncturist, but the money
okay.
was good and I did love it. And I had loyalty to my patients. Like when my patients heard that, like, I became an author, like they weren't thrilled that I might be moving on. And
Mm.
so I stuck it out. But then when COVID happened, they all dropped me. And so while I stuck it out
Wow.
with them, they did not stick it out with me. A handful of them did, right? Like a handful of them still kept coming, but many stopped coming for a long time.
Wow.
I'm getting phone calls now of people that want to come back. And I'm like,
Interesting. I think a lot of people were scared during that
sure,
time.
I get that. I get that people were going through their own thing, but like,
But you had
listen,
a business to run.
I needed to make a move for myself. I had written a clause in my lease that I had a 3-year clause that I could get out. And so when that had happened, I still had to like live out my lease for another year and a half. I shifted my business a little bit. I started doing events. I started doing like full moon circles. I started hosting retreats for women. And then I, reshifted my business to then transfer myself to be online.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And then now, if through how you're helping people heal, how do you use are you able to still use the acupuncture piece to some degree? Because you know the body probably so well and use that with human
Yeah.
design, use like gratitude.
I retired my needles for a while. This year, I had done between last year and the start of this year, I did 4 retreats and a 1-day retreat. And on, I think it was retreat number 3, I had like this whirlwind of every vendor canceled on me, like days up before the retreat. And
Wow.
so in the chaos, and I thrive in chaos, in the chaos, I was like, screw it. I'm not bringing anybody into this house. And
Mhm.
so I took my retreat team and I like revamped the entire thing where everybody still got what they were supposed to and more than. And I brought my needles. And so I broke out my needles. Everybody was thrilled. So my needles made an appearance at a couple of things this year, but I have not practiced with the needles. I mainly do online work now where I work with people one-to-one, or I have a monthly gratitude membership, which is incredible.
Oh, cool.
Gratitude membership every day, there's a task and a reminder to be grateful. So it's not like just make a gratitude list. Like today, it was a beautiful morning mantra, like affirmations. And then it was like getting them into the mode of manifesting and reminding them to be grateful. Then every month there is a theme that we work on. So we start this group started like by accident.
I
I do
love
this
that.
gratitude challenge every year, and this year it just morphed because I have a new book coming out called
Ooh,
62 Days of Transformation and Gratitude. So the gratitude challenge used to be 31 days. This year I did it 62 days just
okay.
to like coincide with the new book. They loved it so much. We finished January 1st that one of my clients was like, "Can you please continue this all year round?" And so it morphed into this beautiful group that was totally unexpected, that was divinely like led. And so every month we meet for a monthly call. This month I have a surprise call for everybody. Actually, in 2 days, we're doing one of my retreat team members is coming and she's going to do a call with everybody. So I'm kind of trying to bring the retreat world into this online space, and I love it.
Oh, that's so fun. I love that for our listeners to hear that, that a lot of the times if we're in flow with life and the universe, things are brought into our lives, into the sphere of what we're doing. And if you say yes to these opportunities, what it can turn into. And I love your story because you would, I mean, you've overcome a lot and it really sounds like you're somebody who can think on your feet and is just like, okay, this isn't working. I'm going over here.
Yeah.
For our listeners that are maybe just starting out on a healing journey, where would you suggest they begin? Because I mean, you've been on this journey for quite some time, but where do you think that somebody could just like kind of plug themselves into just to get going on it?
So, first and foremost, is you have to have a relationship with God. And I wish that somebody would have told me that early on in the journey. And I don't know that I would have listened, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah.
God for me, when God was presented to me in college, really, because I grew up, you have to hear this history. I grew up to immigrant parents. My family migrated here from the Ukraine. My
Right.
grandparents were both in the Holocaust. So we were Jews, but I called my parents breakaway Jews because they would bring me to my grandparents' house or to temple on like high holy holidays, but that was the extent of my Judaism.
Okay.
And if go to temple, most of it is in Hebrew. So you're not learning.
Got
And
it.
so growing up, I was always seeking. And so in high school, I had a friend, she wasn't allowed to play until she went to church. So I would go to church with her and I was like enamored by church because I loved it. And the first time somebody shook my hand and said, "May peace be with you," I was like, wow, like what a nice way to spend a Sunday, you know?
Mhm.
And then I went to college and I started smoking weed. And then I was
And you
like,
forgot about God for a while.
oh, then I was like, well, what if this Bible thing was like written by a couple of dudes sitting around on acid one day? You know, like, how are we putting all of our eggs in this basket? So that's how I went through college. And then when I was 23 years old, I went to get laser hair removal. And there was this girl, and she was wearing a red string. And as she's, removing the hair off my vagina, we're having this great conversation. And she's like, "We should go for drinks." So we're not lesbians. This was like strictly platonic. And after I was like, "Why are you wearing that red string?" Because as a kid in the Jewish religion, we wore the red string for protection. So she was like, "Yeah, that's what it's for. It's for protection, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Well, where did you get it from?" She was like, Kabbalah.com. And so I went home and I Googled Kabbalah.com. And I remember this clear as day. I was 23 years old. I lived in a house with roommates. I was in my roommate's room. And we're talking Kabbalah 2004. So
Okay.
this is like before Madonna, before Kabbalah went mainstream.
Yep.
Kabbalah was a one pager website, and it was like,
Wow.
feel like you're different than everybody else? Do you feel like you've lived multiple lives? Do you feel right? And I was like,
You're like, what is this? Yeah.
yes,
Please
yes.
teach
Right.
me.
I turned on
Yeah.
my roommate and I was like, Jess, there's other crazies out there like me. Like there's other people that think I really thought I was crazy. I really thought like I was getting to a point where I'm like, damn, I'm like just really different from everybody else. And so I called my new friend I was like, hey, do you want to go to New York City with me and go to this Kabbalah center? And so Kabbalah saved me.
Oh, I love
Kabbalah
Kabbalah.
really cleaned me up in a time where I was going down a destructive path. It gave me purpose, it connected me to God, but I still didn't believe in God then. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until these recent years, I would say these last 5 years after COVID, that God really became a thing with me because I have a lot of Jesus loving, Bible pushing friends, a lot, like
Yeah.
some of my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I really struggled with, am I supposed to go down this path?
Mm-hmm.
And so for years, God, it seemed to me that the only way I could connect with God was to connect with Jesus because this is what I was being told. And and the God that I knew in Judaism, I didn't connect to that God.
Right.
So I really struggled with that. And so I needed to untangle that. And so I spent the last few years doing that. And then somebody recommended I read this book called Conversations with God.
Mm-hmm.
This book.
Yep.
So this book, just like page 11, I could have written it myself.
Oh, wow.
Page 11 was because I'm the goddess of gratitude, right? My whole life has been created because of gratitude.
Mm,
And so page 11 spoke to gratitude and how gratitude is your straight connection to God. That
oh,
is it. You
mm,
don't need a religion. You don't need somebody to tell you who God is. There are no rules with God. God does not punish.
yeah.
And so I was reading this book and I was just like, oh my God, I've been connected to you this whole time, but I just couldn't see it because I was in the society trying to fit God into the box
Oh,
that everybody was teaching me that God was, but that's not what God was to me. And
mm-hmm.
so that is my number one advice to you is figure out who God is to you
Wow.
because there is a greater source. Regardless of anything, we think we are energy, and because we are energy, we cannot be destroyed. And so energy recycles. And so we're working with a source that's keeping us going.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's been life-changing for me as well, as I have a very deep connection with God, the divine, whatever people want to call it, but it is the main thing of my work. I feel like it's really hard for people to understand the depths of life sometimes if they can't see that source that moves throughout it, and that life isn't just happening to us, right? But it's happening for us to evolve. So my thought around that is if you had somebody come to you that is really stuck, and you're looking at them, how do you help people get unstuck? Because I feel like so many people that are going to be listening to this, maybe they have a relationship with God, right? But they're like, I'm so stuck. Like I keep repeating the same things over and over again. Why can't I heal?
Okay, so first thing I would do is pick up my first book. It's called 31 Days of Gratitude, Create the Life You Desire. It's literally like 8 or 10 pages of reading because
Okay.
when I wrote the book, I didn't like to read. That was my excuse on my journey, was I didn't like to read. And so, what that book is going to tell you in those 8 to 10 pages is all of the things that I learned on my spiritual journey. Because Kabbalah was the first thing, then it was Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Deepak Chopra. So, I immersed myself in personal development. So, I pull you out the 10 rules of living life the way that I have learned them. And I simplify life in such a way, like I write like how I talk. It's a really easy read. And then every single day, there is a spiritual blurb and there's affirmations for you to be grateful. Because the missing piece to everybody's life is gratitude. And everybody's going to say to me, but I'm grateful. Okay, so then my next question is, do you say I am grateful 20 times a day? And then it's like, then I get the look because most people are not grateful 20 times a day.
Mhm.
And so, what I didn't understand in the beginning, right? Because I didn't have that connection with God, but now I understand that your straight connection to God is gratitude. So,
Mhm.
even if you have a relationship with God, if you're begging God, God, please do this for me. Please do that for me. Please do this for me. You're speaking to God in lack
Yes. Yes.
because you're asking for something. But when you speak in gratitude, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for this day. Thank you for the blessings coming my way. Thank you, God, for the healing that I desire to receive. Thank you, God, for all of my desires coming true. You bring everything into the present tense. That's why manifestation works, because you bring it, you thank God before it happens, and then it's going to happen because you believe in that connection. Now, everything doesn't happen overnight. Manifestation doesn't happen overnight. And so you have to learn how to live in between. And so, there was a post brewing in my mind. It's funny that this is coming up right now. And the post was going to be about goals. Like,
Mhm.
one of my goals for this year was more visibility. And in that visibility was to be at least on 2 podcasts every single month. And
Mhm.
so January did 2, February did 2, and March, I'm already booked for 4.
Amazing.
And so it was a goal that I physically wrote down as a part of my gratitude practice. Thank you, God, for more visibility. Thank you, God, for bringing me in front of people that are going to be able to spread your message with the world, right? Because my message is now God's message. I understand that. It's not just my message. I'm speaking God's message. And
Mhm.
so with this is the busiest birthday month of my life too. I have a 10-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 60-year-old in my household. So it
Oh,
is milestone month for me, and booking 4 shows, and I'm still going. It's only March 4th, right? And so what people fail to miss in this process when they hear about manifesting and think it's like woo woo magic stuff, you still need goals, and you still need to take action, and you still need to work towards that, right? Like, yes, we hope that 100 people are going to pick up the phone and call me and want me on their show, but that's not reality. Reality is I went on Facebook and I did a post, and I took the action to make my manifestation come true.
yes. Yes. You're
How do people
saturating
miss
life.
that? They
Yeah.
miss that little part there.
They miss the part that they have to take action in alignment with the thing that you're already grateful for. And they also miss this one piece, which I think is a very big piece, is that you also have to be grateful for the things that are not happening to your liking, to your desire.
Mhm.
So many people, when there's challenges and obstacles, they aren't grateful for that. They're like, why is this? It's just kind of like complete resistance, right? Like, why is this happening to me? And this, and they go into the stories and the ego gets activated, and it's totally normal. And I think when we get into a little bit of mastery around gratitude, it's realizing that whatever's happening is happening because it's trying to get your attention, it's trying to teach you, it's trying to get you to elevate, to awaken to your soul. And so I agree with you. Gratitude is like being in the channel of receptivity of the divine, good or bad. And if we just take away the labels of like, this is good or bad, it just is. Like, this is happening. This is the isness of life, right? Then we can get back into that flow. And then, like you're saying, like really preemptively co-creating a reality with God. I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
mean, listen, I get it. I used to be on food stamps. I hated my existence. I hated my existence. I didn't want to live. I was 250 pounds. I was living on food stamps. I became a single mom. I hated my apartment, right? When somebody told me to be grateful, I was like, what do I have to be grateful for?
Yeah. It,
Right? Like, the conversation that set me on this journey was somebody told me that I was negative and I complained a lot.
wow.
And in that moment, I was able to receive her because my ego, I had asked God to help me, right?
Wow.
Words to me, I didn't know that I was negative and that I complained a lot. And so it was an awareness that came to my consciousness every time I spoke after that conversation, where I was like, damn, you do complain a lot. And so I would catch myself in the moment and I would switch it into gratitude. And it has been the greatest gift of my life, because just like you said, I can take the hardest moments and I can find gratitude in all of it. 2025 has been such a difficult start to the year for me, but I thrive in living in duality. My uncle passed away. It was so sudden. It was so crazy how it happened. And the gratitude that I found was that my husband and I hired a lawyer and we started creating our end of our life plan because he did not have an end of the life plan.
Wow.
Right. And then the same day that he passed away, I found out that I have Lyme disease and Bartonella. And so one of
Girl,
the
jeez.
biggest fears was like being bit by a tick and getting Lyme's disease. And the crazy freaking part about this diagnosis is I've been living with this for at least 7, 8, 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And so the gratitude that I found in that diagnosis, where most people would have crumbled with the diagnosis. But here, I thought I was menopausal. And I'm running from doctor to test to like trying to figure out like what is happening in my body. And then finally, I got in front of this integrative woman, and she was like, no, there's no doubt you're 45, like your hormones may have dropped, but I don't think it's menopause. She's like, I think that you have Lyme's disease. And I was like, what? And
Wow.
she was right. And so part of this journey and what I'm really good at in my one-to-one work with people is getting to the root of people's problems. And so that's why I was so successful in my acupuncture practice, because it wasn't just about putting needles into somebody, it was helping them get to the root of their problem. Right. Like, for instance, somebody that has a gluten sensitivity, they don't necessarily have stomach pain. A gluten sensitivity can manifest as tennis elbow or knee pain or back pain. And you would never think that cutting gluten is going to make a change for you.
Yeah.
But those are the kinds of things, like that's how I navigate life, right? So when I was told by the first person to go on bioidentical hormones, that just didn't make sense for me. That wasn't the way that I felt. And I was like, no, I have to go deeper. I have to go deeper. I have to go deeper. So getting to the root of why you're at where you're at, I have story after story after story of why I ended up on food stamps. Wasn't my journey. I was successful I was 23 making 100 grand. Like, I was successful out of college. Ending up on food stamps was an ancestor story that I needed to heal, right?
Mm.
Holocaust, Russia came in, took all the stuff, sent my grandfather to war. They got everything taken away. So it was like I needed to get everything taken away in order to understand. Because when they would tell me that they lived 11 people in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Ukraine, like, you can't understand that, like you can't comprehend that. But now when war breaks out in the Ukraine and it's like, wait a second, we're living through history again, and it's like being so awake and so aware, like, of what I'm living through and why. It's magic. It feels like magic, because most people are living their life through autopilot, thinking like, this is happening to me, this is happening, I have bad luck, like she just has better luck than I do. But I go to yoga today. I didn't want to go to yoga today. And she gives out cards, and the card said, life is conspiring for you.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Your transparency and your authenticity is really beautiful. I mean, I know the listeners are going to get so much out of this because you're keeping it real. And I'm so sorry that this has been such a challenging start to a year, but the way that you're handling it, I could see why people, come to you to be supported in their healing journey because you're really doing the work on yourself too. It's not that's I think that's what makes great practitioners is that they're willing to look deeply at themselves and continue to do the work. Because I always feel like the more we know, almost the less we know, because we're just opening up into the vastness of consciousness and what's there.
More
So,
we know, the more we know, that's it. We need to know. And learning doesn't stop in school. And actually, traditional school is not where learning happens. Traditional school is where your limited beliefs were formed. So, all of the thoughts that you have, that you're not enough, that you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not thin enough, all those things, that was what you were trained with in school. Now you need to retrain yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
I have spent more money on personal development post college than I did in college, and I have a bachelor's and a master's, and I have the formal education, and I can tell you that the education of my life came after I got out of school and really after 2020. I would say that I'm so grateful for COVID because COVID was a huge catalyst. It changed everything for me. It really put life into perspective for me, and it created heaven on earth for me.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Shilamida, if people want to work with you, what do you have going on? Where do they find you? Of course, I'll put it in the show notes, but just
Yeah. So
here.
Gratitude 365, you can hop in there at any time. That's every single day. It's a group on Facebook. If you're not on Facebook and you want that interaction, we can email it to you on a daily basis. And then the calls that I offer are on Zoom. We do a monthly call every month with me. And as we get more members, I'll add a second call, and that's live coaching. So you can always ask anything. If you want to work with me one to one, reach out. Let's have a conversation, see if we're a good fit. I have a 3 month package that I do. I have a 3 month package that also has a bonus VIP experience if you're interested in like a one-to-one 24-hour day with me. It is like such an extravagant day. We do dinner together. You get to work with my whole entire retreat team. We have full glam. You get body work, you get acupuncture, you get photography. So that's an incredible thing that I offer. And then throughout the year, I offer different kinds of events and stuff. So I have a book launch coming up soon. It's virtual, it's free. Would love to see you guys there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Shilamita, for everything that you shared and for helping our listeners probably see so much of themselves through you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.